Hey everybody, it's Gail, and this is episode 40 of Errata-Hate. We have come to the end of another batch. It's very exciting. As you already know, this has not been a batch with a how-to because of a shoulder strain that I'm actually still healing from. But I did want to give you something similar to that, because I know how much those how-tos are appreciated. And so today I wanted to talk to you about this pattern, which is called the Taurus T. It's a very small photo on the pattern itself of what it looks like, but it's a super cute t-shirt. And I was working on it before the strain, and it's not 100% finished, but it is far enough along that I can show you what I've done, and also show you a couple of things I want to point out so you don't make the mistakes I did. I made a few mistakes. So first of all, I want to talk to you about the front of the garment. So you make this shirt in a front piece, and then there's a back piece. And in the front piece, you start at one sleeve, like I did here, and you work across, and then you come to a point where you add the extra stitches to make the length of the shirt. And I made more stitches than the length of the shirt called out for. It called out for, I think, 58 more stitches, and I did, I think, 78 because I just wanted a slightly longer shirt. But the pattern works the same way. It's a very simple pattern that works out very prettily. You know, you can see it's got these open spots throughout that I think are quite lovely. This is also a larger yarn than called for. I used a slightly thicker yarn and a D hook rather than the yarn they recommended, a B hook. And the reason I didn't use the recommended yarn is because it's from a Japanese yarn company, and I wasn't international shipping. I mean, it's the short version. I would love to use their yarns though because they have such a great archive of patterns for crocheters, and it's all charted, which I also love. But I will be pointing out a couple of places in the chart where I fucked up, so that hopefully you won't fuck up. But back to the top. So you work across, and then you come to a point where you bind off, as you can see I did here, and then you come down a certain number of stitches, and you start working again, and that's what gives you this neckline. And then once you finish the neckline, rather than binding off and starting again from the top and attaching, there's actually a series of chain stitches here that you do all the chain stitches at once, and then over a series of rows, you pick them back up to give you the rest of the neckline, and then you work out to the other sleeve, and then you work the other sleeve on its own. And so that is the front piece that you do. So you end up with one big piece on the front, which is really nice. But I really like the back, which I have about, I'm close to 2/3 finished with it, because how the back works is that you make the same sleeve, and then you do all the same counts and everything for the length. So you see my length here matches, my sleeves match, but you don't have to do any of the neckline stuff, so it goes very quickly. And this is actually part of what caused my shoulder strain, is I did a bunch of rows at once when I was hurting in pain. And so I'm finishing up the back piece. I have another 21 rows, and then the other sleeve, and then it's just a matter of stitching them together. I'm very confident on that, as I'm used to seaming things. And so it's a pattern I think is very cute, and I think it's a pattern that can flatter a lot of people. But I'm going to flip the camera in just a minute and walk you through the parts of the pattern that I was a little confused on originally, because while I have worked with charts in the past, this one is a little bit different. So we're going to go do that now. Okay, we're back with the pattern in front of me. So the first thing I want to point out is that there's a note here that says crochet tips that is actually the written instruction for the beginning of the pattern to start the sleeves. And I just want to point out that because, terminology is a little bit different kind of wherever you go to crochet. So that is a good way to start without having to count stitches when you look at the chart. There's also their seam written here, which I do plan to use. So the next piece that we have, if you haven't seen a chart like this before, I'm glad I get to walk you through it. So the first thing here is the layout of the front and back body. And I don't have great spatial instincts. I talked about this before. I can't always picture things, and I actually got a little bit confused here because I had down here, let me turn it on the side here so you can see it. I had 12 rows, 44 rows, and 12 rows. And then here I had 21 rows, 26 rows, and 21 rows. And I got a little confused because all the row numbers and the centimeter numbers matched up, and I ended up actually having to frog my first attempt and start over. And so what I want to point out here actually is that this number here, this 44 rows, is incorrect. Because this 12 rows is counting the 12 rows for the sleeve. This 12 rows is counting the 4 rows for the sleeve. Not the 12 rows for the sleeve. And then 44 rows is counting the entire width of the full piece. And that's incorrect because the full width of the piece after the sleeves is 21 plus 26 plus 21. So that's a misnumbering there in terms of the number of rows. So up here are the rows you're going to build after the first sleeve, and this is the final set of rows you're going to build. So you're going to do 12 rows for the sleeve, and then you're going to do 21 rows, and you're going to do 26 and 21 in this pattern with the neckline for the front, and then you're going to finish with that 12 rows for the sleeve, and then when you flip to the back, you're just going to do a bunch of straight across rows, including the sleeves. So over here you have the pattern stitch, and this is just what you're going to work. It's a very simple pattern. I really like it a lot. You know, that open work mesh on every third row makes a really good look. Over here you have the basic finishing information. There's a roll-up belt that you can make. There's a neckline. This is one of the stitches you use for that finishing. And over here is like the full edging you do for like around the collar, around the shirt cuffs, and around the bottom. And then this is the belt pattern so that you can attach a button and then sort of pin the sleeves up. And I will be linking to this pattern down in the basement so you can see that larger version. You can see where those roll-up belts are and get a better idea of how to use them. So onto the big pattern, onto the big chart we've got here. And this was confusing to me because I've never worked with a chart that has been quite this large. So the first place you start is down here on the sleeve, and you see it tells you to chain 55, which it told you at the beginning. But I like that it's repeated here. And then you're going to work this pattern, and when you come into a chart that's got this open space like this, it means you're just going to keep doing what you're doing. And the thing I really want to point out is that keep an eye out for these sorts of increases at the ends of rows. I had to frog out a number of times working this the first time because I got into just doing like how it was done, but they actually are increasing things as you go. And then, so this is 12, so this is the full sleeve here. And then the first row, to make it long, starts on this chain row here. So you make a regular row in the pattern, and then you come to the end of it and you chain, and it says chain by working 58, but, well, keep working by chaining 58, but you can really make this as long or as short as you want. And like I said earlier, I went about 78. And then the, one of the other things to notice is that when you're doing the mesh rows, it's 4 stitches, and you're skipping the first 2 stitches to start that row, but when you're coming back and picking it up, you're doing two double crochet in that chain 4 because it's supposed to be 2 stitches. It's supposed to be the double crochet and the chain stitch. So you're going to work across, and what's going to happen is you're not going to hit 40 there. You are going to actually come up to 21. So, and this picks up at 17. And then 21 is the end of that first chunk, as I showed you on the layout. So you're going to do 21, and then you're going to cast off at the end of 21, and you're going to pick up at number 1. And you'll see here you've got a chart that tells you the white triangles are to join and the black triangles are to cut. So you cut at the end of 21, and then you join again at 1, and then this is the 26 that you're working, this whole piece here. And this is the big long chain that I mentioned. And what I did was, after I finished 25, I went ahead and chained off of that 25, and then joined again to do the other rows here. So the 26 and the one that are here. Much like on the sleeve, keep a real good eye on this neckline, because you'll see there are some decreases that happen, and they happen, and then they're smooth, and then you come over here and you actually, you're doing increases, so you get the same curve coming the other way. And then, of course, once you pick up over here on the 1, you're just going to do another run of 21, and then after you do the 21, you are going to switch over here to finish out this second sleeve. And I'm walking you through all of this because down here you'll notice this is marked as 42, because 21 and 21 is 42, but the thing is, before you do the second part of the 21, you've got to do the 26 that is the neckline, or for the back, you've got to do the 26 across the back so it fits. So those are the things that I noticed that were a little confusing for me when I was working the pattern, and so I definitely wanted to show them to you. You know, as always, if you enjoy what I'm doing here, please like, subscribe, share, and, you know, if you're watching my videos a lot and you've seen the Patreon link, and if you have $1 a month that you can give me, $1 a month goes a long way. You get all of my patterns and charts and little stuff I do for free if you're a $1 patron, and so my patterns, which usually retail for $5, they're just yours for $1 a month, so you get a great deal. And so with that, I'm going to end batch 4, and thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to have made it to another milestone in this whole project, and I look forward to starting batch 5 for you.